Have you ever heard about mindfulness and thought, oh great, another self-help trend? Or maybe you downloaded those meditation apps, tried them for a few weeks, and ended up feeling even more frustrated because you just couldn't empty your mind the way everyone promised you could? If you're watching this video, I'm pretty sure you've been through that experience. And you know what? You're not alone in feeling that way. And more importantly, you're not wrong for questioning it. I used to think mindfulness was some sort of modern scam too, a watered-down, commercialized version of something that should be much deeper and more meaningful. It felt like everyone was talking about being present, but in a way that sounded completely hollow, almost robotic. As if all it took was the push of a button and, magically, all our anxious thoughts, worries, and fears would just vanish into thin air. Worse yet, when that didn't work, and believe me, most of the time it didn't, the blame always fell back on us. You're not meditating correctly. You need more practice. You have to try harder to silence your mind. And just like that, a practice that was supposed to bring us peace turned into yet another source of pressure and self-criticism in our already overwhelmed lives. But then something completely changed my perspective on all of this. And that shift came from a totally unexpected place. From the deep and compassionate teachings of Carl Rogers, a humanistic psychologist who lived decades before the whole mindfulness boom, but who already understood in a much wiser and gentler way what it truly means to be present. Not just with the world around us, but most importantly, with ourselves. Carl Rogers never used the word mindfulness in his writings or therapy sessions, but he spoke about something infinitely more powerful and transformative, the extraordinary capacity we all have to meet our own experience in a genuine, authentic way, without harsh judgments, without the constant pressure to fix or control our feelings as if they were problems that needed solving. And when I finally started to understand this deeper, more compassionate perspective, a light went on. I realized that maybe the problem isn't mindfulness itself, but the superficial and sometimes even cruel way it's been presented to us in recent years. Throughout his life, Rogers developed a revolutionary understanding of something he called the organismic experience, a more sophisticated way of saying something both very simple and deeply profound. Our body, our mind, our whole being knows far more about what we truly need than our rational mind could ever grasp or control. But in order to access this extraordinary inner wisdom, we need to learn to relate to ourselves in a completely different way than society has taught us. Imagine for a moment a very common situation. You're feeling that familiar anxiety rising in your chest, those racing thoughts, that sense that something terrible might happen. The traditional approach of modern mindfulness would probably tell you something like this. Observe your anxiety without clinging to it. Watch your thoughts like clouds passing through the sky. Let everything pass without resistance. Sounds beautiful in theory, doesn't it? But Rogers, with his deep wisdom and genuine understanding of human nature, went far beyond that surface-level approach. He would say something entirely different. Your anxiety is a real and legitimate part of you in this very moment. It's not an intruder. It's not a problem that needs to be eliminated. It has something important and valuable to say about your lived experience. Instead of trying to make it go away or pass quickly, what if you approached it with the same gentle, loving curiosity you would offer to a dear friend going through a hard time? Can you feel the fundamental difference between these two approaches? One treats your feelings as enemies to be controlled or eliminated. The other sees them as important messengers worthy of being heard and understood. One creates an internal war. The other creates a loving encounter with yourself. It's no longer about letting go or controlling, concepts that, let's be honest, often just increase our internal pressure. Rogers invites us to something revolutionary, to create a safe, welcoming, and non-judgmental internal space where all of our emotions, even the most difficult and uncomfortable ones, can exist and be truly understood. Rogers deeply believed in what he called total and unconditional acceptance, not just of others, but most importantly of ourselves. It's as if we become our own best friend, that one special person who never judges us, who always tries to understand us, who stays by our side through the hardest moments without trying to fix, or offer ready-made solutions. The truth that few people talk about is that, most of the time, mindfulness has been taught and sold as a tool to fix something that's supposedly wrong with us. As if we were broken machines that need an instruction manual to start functioning properly again. As if anxiety, sadness, anger, and fear were factory defects that need to be repaired or eliminated so we can finally become normal and functional human beings. But Rogers, with his deeply humanistic and compassionate perspective, saw reality in a completely different way. To him, we are not broken. We never were. We are not renovation projects that need fixing. What happens is that throughout life, we often become disconnected from our own inner wisdom, from this extraordinary capacity we all have to instinctively know what's best for us. And here we arrive at one of Rogers' most revolutionary and hopeful discoveries, the actualizing tendency. This is a concept that can completely transform the way you relate to yourself. The actualizing tendency is that inner force, that natural wisdom we all carry within us, which is always working in our favor, always seeking our growth, our healing, and our deepest well-being. Think of a plant growing in a place with very little light. It's not broken or defective. It simply needs the right conditions, more light, the right amount of water, nutrient-rich soil, in order to express its full beauty and natural vitality. In the same way, our ability to deal with anxiety, sadness, fear, anger, insecurity, all those emotions that sometimes haunt us, hasn't disappeared. It isn't lost. It just needs the right internal conditions to flourish. Genuine acceptance, loving understanding, and unconditional kindness toward ourselves. Now, how does this connect in a practical way with mindfulness? Rogers practiced and taught something we might call Rogerian presence, a way of being present that goes far beyond any technique or method. When Rogers was with his clients in therapy, he wasn't simply paying attention or observing without judgment. He was offering something far more powerful, his full, total presence without any hidden agenda to fix the person, and without rushing them to change or improve. He was simply there, fully present, creating a sacred and safe space where the person could, perhaps for the first time in their life, meet themselves without fear of judgment, criticism, or rejection. And what happened in that space was almost magical. People began to heal naturally, to find their own answers, to discover inner resources they didn't even know they had. And this is exactly what we can learn to do with ourselves. Instead of using mindfulness as just another tool to control our thoughts or eliminate difficult emotions, we can learn to use presence in the same gentle and loving way Rogers did with his clients. To create a genuine, respectful, and deeply compassionate encounter with ourselves. This represents a subtle, yet absolutely revolutionary shift in how we relate to our internal experiences. When that familiar wave of anxiety arises, instead of automatically thinking, I need to meditate to calm down, or I have to stop feeling like this, we can take a gentle pause and approach our anxiety the way a compassionate friend would approach us. We can ask, with genuine curiosity and no rush, what are you trying to tell me, my anxiety? What do you need from me right now? What can I offer you so you feel held and understood? It's a seemingly small change, but a deeply transformative one. We stop playing the role of the harsh inner controller or critic and begin to take on the role of our own compassionate, understanding friend. Rogers also taught us about something fundamental called congruence. Our ability to be authentic, to be in harmony with what we truly feel and think, without needing to fake it or play a role that isn't ours. And when we practice presence in this Rogerian way, something extraordinary happens. We naturally become more congruent, more aligned with ourselves. We stop wasting energy fighting against our inner world, and we finally begin to truly know ourselves. Let me share with you a very simple and powerful way to practice this Rogerian presence in your daily life. It's not a complicated exercise. It doesn't require special apps, specific positions, or elaborate techniques. It's just a sacred moment of genuine connection with yourself, a moment that can happen anywhere, anytime. When you notice yourself feeling tense, anxious, sad, irritated, or experiencing any difficult emotion, take a gentle pause, take a deep breath, not to calm down or regain control, but simply to give yourself the gift of arriving fully in the present moment, to meet yourself exactly where you are right now. Now, instead of trying to change, control, or eliminate what you're feeling, ask yourself this simple but transformative question. What am I feeling right now? And can I be here, present, and welcoming with this feeling without needing to change it immediately? Notice that we're not trying to empty the mind or watch thoughts drift like clouds. We're doing the exact opposite. We are turning toward our real experience with loving curiosity and genuine acceptance. Like a dear and trusted friend who comes close to us when we're going through a particularly difficult moment. Not to offer advice or ready-made solutions, but simply to be present with us, to truly listen, to welcome us exactly as we are. Rogers had a deep and unwavering belief that when we do this, when we truly meet our experience without judgment, criticism, or pressure for immediate change, our inner wisdom, that extraordinary actualizing tendency we carry within us, automatically begins to work in our favor. We don't need to force solutions. We don't need to fight for insights or answers. They emerge naturally, organically, when we create the inner space that is safe and welcoming enough for them to appear. Sometimes, through this compassionate encounter with yourself, you may discover that your anxiety is actually trying to tell you that you need more rest, more self-care, more time for yourself. Or you may realize that your sadness is a precious signal that something truly important to you is not being honored or valued in your current life. Maybe your anger is pointing to a boundary that needs to be set in a relationship or work situation. Or your insecurity might be revealing an area in your life where you need more support, more understanding, or deeper personal growth. This is the extraordinary wisdom of the actualizing tendency in full action. Our innate ability to know exactly what we need to grow and to flourish. When we begin to practice this Rogerian presence consistently and lovingly, something absolutely fundamental begins to change in our most important relationship, the relationship we have with ourselves. Gradually, we stop being our harshest critic, our most relentless judge, our own cruelest enemy, and we begin to become our own best friend, our most trusted ally, our safest source of understanding and acceptance. And that, my friends, is truly revolutionary. It's a transformation that changes not just how we feel, but how we live, how we relate, how we face the inevitable challenges of human existence. You begin to realize with growing clarity that you don't need to fix your feelings because they are not broken. They are precious and valuable information about your unique experience of life. You discover that you don't need to control your thoughts, because when you stop fighting them so hard, they naturally find their own healthy and balanced rhythm. Mindfulness, when seen through the compassionate and wise eyes of Carl Rogers, is no longer just another self-help technique. It becomes something much deeper, a genuine and loving way of living, a way of relating to yourself with the same gentleness, patience, and understanding that Rogers offered to every one of his clients. It's about creating within yourself an inner sanctuary where all aspects of who you are, including the most vulnerable, confused, or frightened, can exist and be truly welcome without fear of judgment or rejection. And do you know the extraordinary result of all this? When you become that compassionate and understanding friend to yourself, you naturally, organically become more present, more calm, more centered, and at peace. Not because you forced it through techniques or effort, but because you created the ideal internal conditions for your natural tendency toward balance, well-being, and growth to flourish freely. It's like the difference between trying to force a flower to bloom by pulling its petals and simply making sure it has fresh water, proper light, and quality nutrients. One approach is forced, violent, and often destructive. The other is natural, respectful, and always effective, in the right time and in the right way. So, is mindfulness a scam? Definitely not. But perhaps the way it has often been presented and commercialized doesn't come close to capturing the depth, the gentleness, and the transformative power this practice can truly have when understood and practiced through the compassionate lens of Carl Rogers. When we see mindfulness through Rogers' loving and wise eyes, it transforms from a simple relaxation technique into something infinitely more valuable, a sacred path toward deep self-knowledge, genuine self-acceptance, and ultimately a peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances, but is born from a loving encounter with oneself.